Tensions in Europe have been escalating. After bitter disagreements, communications have been cut, and under the cover of drills, the Soviets have launched an onslaught against West Germany, with packed divisions flooding across the border, and enemy special forces causing havoc behind lines. This raises the question, how would NATO fight a Soviet invasion of Western Europe? Whilst the increased tensions have seen a reinforcement of West Germany, the speed of Soviet operations have meant that the bulk of our reinforcements, the so-called Reforger units from the United States, need time to mobilise and pick up their equipment from POMCUS bases across West Germany. Therefore, the units stationed in Germany at the start of the war, primarily the British, French, West Germans, and a few American and Canadian divisions, have to hold the line as long as possible and prevent the Soviets from overrunning the entirety of Germany. NATO's inferiority in numbers is made up by its technological edge. Tanks like the Abrams and jets like the F-15 and Tornado are more advanced than their Warsaw Pact counterparts, and will prove critical in the fight to come. As the Soviet sledgehammer smashes into the border units, NATO's Northern Command, Norfag, Central Command, Centag, and Southern Command, Southag, rush to mobilise and take up defensive positions, as Western bombers harass Soviet divisions and their rear logistics. Special Forces roads will be dealt with by security divisions such as those of the US Air Force, alongside West German reservists. At the same time as the ground operations, the US Navy steams toward the North Sea. It will focus on blocking the Baltic Sea alongside the GR-UK gap, defending Denmark alongside protecting the shipping lanes across the Atlantic. Local reinforcements from the UK, Netherlands, Belgium and France will ease the pressure on frontline units, slowly grinding the Soviets to a halt and buying time for the Americans to arrive in force. After brutal fighting, the Soviets will be exhausted, as our air forces have kept up constant suppression, and the numbers advantage has been minimised due to the amount of damage done to their logistics and equipment. With Reforger units arriving, the counter-offensives begin, emphasising precision strikes and beheading Soviet spearheads. With this rolling thunder, NATO forces will smash into their packed hinterlands, liberating their people from their unpopular governments, yet stopping at the Soviet border, as we do not want to risk a nuclear escalation. In reality, it is likely NATO would fight to keep the status quo, maintaining the pre-war borders. If NATO began pushing into packed core territory, it is likely that the Soviets would use nuclear weapons in one form or another. This is also the case with NATO. If the Soviets push too far, then units would be given the green light to use tactical nuclear ordnance, which would create an escalatory spiral into World War III. NATO plans, in my opinion, are more interesting than the Soviet counterpart. NATO had a distance disadvantage, as the strongest member, the United States, was across the Atlantic, and whilst its presence in Europe was substantial, it was also spread out across the world. In contrast, the Soviets could easily mass their troops on the border, and the logistic hubs were close to the fighting. Yet, despite these disadvantages, NATO's plans showed determination to overcome them, and by using multinational cooperation and integration, they intended to make the Soviets regret ever invading.